Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update. It is Thursday the 11th of December. This video is for educational purpose only and there's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. So this is the day after FOMC meeting and Fed rate decision where they cut the interest rate by or the leading interest by a quarter percentage point. And at first the market liked it, but then maybe overnight they changed their position a little bit. But let's first have a look at Oracle. That came out yesterday with some not so positive announcements. Oracle traded lower after market. First it was down 6% and then it continued further and went down below 200 as indicated here. By the dashed line, 197.50 it closed lower, and that is a big drop. It's about 10-12% or something like that. So it seems like Oracle is really resuming a downtrend, and it doesn't look too good for the previous or the old from the dot-com bubble era. That has really done well, and also lately here in 2025 to all-time high, but totally collapsing here. And if it takes out the lows, which will not be a surprise, if it takes out the lows here, 185.60 from a couple of weeks back, well, then there is definitely downside potential all the way down to 127, 125 in this region down here. So this is a bit of a bubble that seems to be collapsing. Here on daily we can see 55 moving below 100 moving average, and that's also a bad sign that it did so. So looking bad for Oracle to say the least. But let's see what happened in the US market last night. Nasdaq 100 actually closed above its key resistance there, 25,663. RSI closed above 60 and 60.31, so it actually established a positive sentiment. But look at what happened in the overnight. So we had a bit of a sell-off in the future overnight, and here we have the actual future. Here, if it will come up, here we are. And that is a little bit negative. We can also see the future didn't close above 60 threshold, but still it is the cash index that's the most important one that we should look at. But nevertheless, it is a little bit of a concern, especially if you're bullish on the market and long on the market, that it didn't follow through overnight. So that will be key to watch today. What will happen with the overall market? We have S&P 500 also closing above its key resistance at 6,870. RSI closed above 60 threshold. So actually it's confirming a bullish trend, but also here the future set back overnight a bit. So key to watch here towards the end of the week. What will it do? Will we have a correction nevertheless, or will we have a market moving higher and being lifted later today in a normal session? Also the Dow future a little bit lower after pushing higher during normal session yesterday. The small cap index, new all-time highs there, and pushing a higher 255 almost. So the small caps are really doing well. So maybe those are the ones you should have your eyes on. I'm not going to recommend anything, but what I can say is that some of the small semiconductors actually did well during normal session yesterday, whereas Nvidia was a little bit depressed. Also solar and healthcare also did fine, and mining companies. Moving on to the Seng index that opened a little bit higher but closed unchanged. So still a little bit depressed, but keep support 25,145 to observe. Nikkei sitting back after reaching this 61.8 retracement there, just below 51,000, sitting back a little bit. RSI didn't get back above 60 threshold. It's still in a positive sentiment, but as you can see, there is divergence on it. So it is a little bit cautious at the moment, but the underlying sentiment, underlying trend is still bullish until it takes out 48,000. But be wary what's going on there. EUROStoxx50 sat back a little bit yesterday. And pre-market down a bit, down about 0.5%. And let's have a look at that. You can see it being knocked back from the 786 retracement there. RSI, did it close? No, it did not. So it's still, at least on the EU50 CFD, it is still a little bit depressed. But as we can see here, on the actual CAS index, and that's what's key, it actually is still in a positive sentiment. But we had this divergence here, so that's weighing on a little bit. However, if it takes out the spike up there from a couple of days ago, 5,754, well then a downtrend, uptrend is back in session, will likely higher levels to follow. DAX can't really get back above the cloud, is spiking above a little bit, did it close about, it's marginal, and also RSI didn't close above 60 threshold, so the sentiment underlying is still a little bit negative. However, we have the 55 moving average rising there, adding a little bit to a slightly positive picture. Here pre-market, we can see we are sitting down a little bit. So let's see. Today could be interesting when market participants have digested the announcement from Fed last night and looking at the numbers and taking into account more or less everything. So let's see what will happen. On the FX side, euro dollar pushed higher in late session yesterday, up to 50% of this downtrend here, dancing around the cloud area. RSI in a positive sentiment, meaning it's above 60 threshold. It actually went above there a couple of weeks ago, about a week ago. And I think we'll see it crawling higher here in the coming weeks towards 117.50, 65, which is the 61.8 retracement of this downtrend there. And I think we will slowly establish or continue this bullish trend, higher low, higher high, higher low, and higher high. We can also see here the weekly starting to move around. And we can also draw a trend line here on the weekly chart. You can see there we are actually breaking above it. Let's see if it will actually close above 60 threshold and above the falling trend line here on the weekly chart. So key to watch, we are in a bullish trend on euro dollar. Sterling dollar. Sterling dollar also confirming its bullish trends, high, 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 low, high, 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 low, and so on. Dancing around the 786 retracement just in the upper part of the cloud area here, but RSI in a positive sentiment indicating likely higher levels. And I think we will see it crawling back towards 135 area here, 134.70, 135 and a quarter area here in the coming days and weeks. The 100 moving average still weighing on it a little bit though. But we are back above the rising 200 and you see 55 turning around. So it will probably just be a little bit of sideways stepping and then the next move higher. Euro sterling that bounced from the support there at 87.14, not the strongest one, but nevertheless it did it. And the lower part of cloud that adds to the support, and the 100 moving average also adding to that to support. So that will be key to what's next. Will it take out the lows there? I would say 87.10, always subtract a little bit. If it takes it out, well, then we could be looking at 86.75, 86.55, these lows here. So that will also be key to watch. And so there will be this battle going on between those three, the euro, the sterling, and the dollar here the next few weeks, which direction, because they can't all rise, but it could not at the same time, but there's a little bit of timing issue you should take into account. So moving on to the yen pairs, dollar yen sat back yesterday, didn't get all the way up to the 786 retracement. It touched almost the 157 within a few pips, and then it sat back and bouncing now a little bit. There's still positive sentiment on the R side. There's no divergence. We see these peaks here corresponding nicely with these peaks up there, and the this peak here, also here. So higher highs on the RSI values, higher highs on the actual price graph, supporting the bullish view. It's just struggling a little bit. However, if it takes out these peaks here, just below 157, 156.95, then expect them push above 158. It's just sitting back a little bit. There has been some noise here with the FOMC yesterday. We'll be looking at the yields in a few minutes. Euro yen crawling higher. Testing the 182 a couple of times here overnight, but I think it will crawl higher. Still positive sentiment on the RSI. There's slight divergence now. You can see the RSI didn't follow through, moving higher, but still trust the trend at the moment. I think we will see it pushing higher towards 183, 183.70, 184 maybe even. So as long as it stays above 179 and 75, the bullish trend is intact. Seems to be a little bit minor correction kicking in the Aussie yen pair. Massive move up there on the 9th, a little bit cautious yesterday, sit back, and now also sitting back. And we could see it sitting back a bit, maybe even testing this rising trend line here. The uptrend is intact, but as you can see, there's divergence on the RSI. This peak here is lower than over here. So it is quite stretched at the moment. So keep also an eye on the rising trend line there. It might test it and then skid off and then push back up there if market turns around. So that could be also key to watch. And there is room higher, as we can see here on the weekly. There's no divergence on the positive RSI. So I think we will see it pushing higher in the coming weeks after a correction. Sterling yen. Oh, let me just say Aussie yen. It's more likely it was that the Aussie dollar move that reacted overnight that caused this Aussie yen pair to sitting back. So let's see. We'll be talking about Aussie dollar in a minute. Sterling yen also stalling a little bit, but you can see RSI actually broke above its falling trend line there, indicating, and let's just make it a little bit clear. There we are. You can see it actually broke above there and testing from the other side. So that could be a sign that sterling yen will still continue higher, despite the fact there is some divergence. You can see it's actually declining, but the fact that it actually pushed above the falling trend line could indicate we will see higher levels on sterling yen. And now let's have a look at Aussie dollar. A lot of volatility in early session in Asia this morning here. Sitting back, there's still room up to 67 peak area. Positive sentiment on the RSI. There's no divergence. That indicates that we could see Aussie dollar pushing higher. As long as we stay above 66, well, then the uptrend is intact. But we did talk about it yesterday and the day before. We could see a little bit of correction before the next move higher, and I think that's what we have at the moment. I don't think it would be that big. Dollar Canada continue lower yesterday, bouncing a little bit today, but it is in a bearish trend, and there is potential down to 137.20, 25 level, possibly dipping a little bit lower. There's a little bit of divergence kicking in. You can see this RSI value here higher than here. Market moved lower, so a little bit of exhaustion maybe. But if it takes out the lows from yesterday, expect a move down towards 137 area, 137 and a quarter. Sterling Canada stepping a little bit sideways. Can't really make up his decision which way you want to go. I mean, we did have higher highs here and higher lows, but for now it's still a bit depressed. It's below the cloud, below all moving averages, which are all declining, and negative sentiment on the RSI. If it takes out the lows here at 183.75, then I expect to push lower, possibly towards 182. Swiss, Euro Swiss is still in a correction phase here. I think we will see it higher eventually, but we could see it sliding lower towards 93 and a quarter, possibly a little bit lower to the 38.2 retracement, but we have the 100 moving average coming in here, adding a little bit to some support, and 55 slowly rising here. So the underlying trend and sentiment is bullish. It's just that the 200 is weighing on it a little bit, and there was some strong resistance here just around 94. So keep an eye on that. Could see slight lower and then next move higher. Dollar Swiss got knocked back here to these lows level here around 80, where we're trading at the moment. Can't really make up its mind. We did have some, we're still in a positive sentiment. We actually closed above 60 threshold there, but it's so marginal, so it can't really make up its mind. And the key thing is also that these highs here are actually declining. So will it turn around? And it is not unlikely. You see, currently it has taken out these lows here. If it takes out and moves below the cloud lower level there, which is at 79.75, then we could see a downtrend resuming, especially if also RSI moves back below 40 threshold. So that could be something to watch here next call there on dollar Swiss. So there's a pullback kind of in both directions there on the dollar Swiss. On the dollar index, finally rejected once again at the 200 moving average, pushing below and taking out these lows here. And RSI closed below 40 threshold yesterday, also meaning that we are now in a confirmed bearish trend. It was established there, but it wasn't confirmed. Now it's confirmed, and I think we'll see the dollar index pushing low here the next few days. Some support here at 98.35, but there's now risk down to lower part of the cloud here and the 98 or 97.80 support area. So lower lows, lower highs has been established. On the gold still stepping sideways here between basically between 41.60 and 42.65. It needs to break out of that. It could still dip lower to test this falling trend line and this rising trend line, but don't think it will. We are in a positive sentiment. I think eventually it will take out that upper band there and push higher towards 4,400, but it's just lacking some momentum at the moment and some getting its mojo back. Silver, on the other hand, is really pushing higher. A new all-time high again today, 62.50, very close to 200% of this correction here. Really strong trend. Also RSI above its falling trend line. There is divergence. As you can see, these values here are lower than here. So we are a little bit stressed. But again, as I said before, trust the trend. As long as it's intact, we are likely to push high. We can see here on the weekly massive move. It's almost like a bubble scenario, but there could be a further upside. It seems like there's a lot of FOMO going on, fear of missing out. So let's see, will it form a potential top and reversal pattern, or will it continue higher? But for now, it seems very, very strong. Excuse me. Here is the actual future, same picture of course, but sometimes we see different patterns forming. The platinum can't really make up its mind. It still needs to take out the peak there to really get on fire higher. Copper, a little bit sideways, still in a bullish trend, positive sentiment on the RSI, 55 moving average rising. The underlying sentiment is positive, and the medium-term trend scenario also positive. I think eventually we will push to here 561 to 786 retracement of this sell-off there, and it's just pausing a little bit. Could pausing a little bit for a little bit further. On the energy side, we have WTI crude oil. And I will remove this because it got rejected there at the 61.8 and the 55 moving average. I think we will push lower. And we're going to see we're still negative sentiment. So bearish trend is intact. And same picture on Brent crude oil, actually more more pronounced. We had a lower level here yesterday, but it bounced a little bit, but we had lower closes. So the downtrend is confirmed, and it will be further adding to the negative picture if RSI closes back below 45. So already it's negative sentiment, but that will further add to the bearish picture. On the EU nat gas, you see we are getting closer and closer to these lows here, back from 2024 in Q1, which is around 2022 levels, getting closer and closer to it, currently trading around 27. So EU nat gas really have it there. Correction going on, and maybe could be over for US nat gas. Spike below the 786 retracement here, 450, bouncing a little bit. Let's see. But if it takes out the lows from yesterday, they're at 445. Well, then we could be looking at 4.25. But the underlying trend, the underlying moving averages are still rising, and RSI is still positive. There's no divergence. This peak here is actually higher than over here. So that indicates we could actually see US nat gas pushing higher on the medium term. The window is still long, so let's see here the next few days which way it will move. If it starts moving around and pushing back above 475, then I think uptrend will resume. And now let's get to it. We have the US 10-year Treasury yields spiked above 420, closed back below, and overnight and this morning it has sat back a little bit further. So what I could do here, I will remove this, or I'll just slide it back, away a little bit here, and then add another one to it and see, all right, where could we correct down to? Possibly down to this area here, which is all the 38.2, which is 412, which is also the same as the 786 retracement the other way. 412 could sit back to there, maybe even down to around 410 here, but then we have 55 moving average coming around. Still positive sentiment on the RSI, which is closed above 65, so supporting high levels. So eventually, maybe in a week's time or something like that, we could see it turning around. On the European yields, here we have EU10 didn't push all the way up just yet, at least, but positive sentiment, no divergence on the RSI, indicating higher levels of the European 10-year yields here. Spiked higher yesterday, but didn't get all the way up to the previous peak, but I think we will see it eventually pushing high. It's almost 290. UK, it's a little bit boring story. It's not just humming away. It's interesting with all the budget turmoil going on, or political turmoil, but that's how it is. So I'll just jump on to the Japanese 10, sitting back. We are in a correction phase, and if we measure it from the this leg up here, well, I don't think we will get all the way back down to the 184, but it is a strong support. Not only it's a 38.2 retracement, but it's also where we had the spike on where it really took off there. So it's not unlikely we'll do that. We can see positive sentiment, no divergence, indicating actually higher levels later on the Japanese 10-year. So I think we will see it breaking 2%, but there was some really strong some political will there to keep it below 2%. It's a massive milestone. On the Bitcoin, higher highs, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Very cautious, very slightly. We see RSI also above this rising trend line there. So as long as it doesn't take out the lows there at 87, 87,730, the very short-term uptrend is intact. Ethereum spiked higher yesterday, sitting back now again, but also higher high, higher low, higher high. It got knocked down by the 55 moving average. It might have another go. Negative sentiment still intact, didn't close back above 60 threshold, but I think it will do it eventually. But be cautious, it could also slide back here. So a little bit cautious I would be on the cryptos at the moment. All right, that's all for today. It's a long one today, but there's also a lot of stuff to talk about. Have a nice day. Be careful out there and keep charting.